name is Donna Gorton and welcome to Willows Bend. So tonight we are going to be covering the Black Pyramid in Alaska. And so we're going to get started in a minute because I pretty much keep track of chat out of my Facebook group, the Willows Bend, because everybody watches me and it's easier for everybody. So once that gets shared in and we get the feed going and all that good stuff, then I will let them know I'm on and say hi, or that I'm in the chat with them, whichever you want to call it. And then we will get started here. Should be any time. La, la, la. And I had no idea about this. It was one of those topics that's new to me. I mean, a lot of the ones we cover, I'm at least rudimentarily familiar with, but this was not one of them. This was suggested actually by my lovely admin, Sandy Miller. So thank you, Sandy. And we're going to be doing that tonight. So just going to keep refreshing my group here. Yep. There we are, darling. All right. And so if anybody sees me looking down to the side, it is because I am acknowledging everybody in chat. Pumpkin and a heart. There we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. There we go. Hi, Nancy. And I believe it's Mary. I got to get my glasses on. That helps, doesn't it? Yes. Hi, guys. Hi, Stacy, my dear sister. So, yeah, tonight we're going to be talking about the Black Pyramid in Alaska. It's an interesting topic, definitely. And then I actually have gotten a couple more, one of them which I have to add to our list, is I literally just heard about it half hour ago in what I was playing while getting ready for the show tonight with hair, makeup, all that good stuff. So I'm going to jot that down now so I don't forget about it. I wrote it on a napkin of all things. It was the only thing I had available in my vicinity. So let's see. Let me make a side note here. But it sounds interesting. So what is it? Psychotronics. There we go. All right. And I'll explain what it is when we get to it and all that, of course. But for now, I just didn't want to forget it as a topic because it's an interesting one of those deep, I guess most might consider conspiracy theory. I don't, because it sounds very valid to me as a thing. So, yeah, we're going to do that for the list. So anyways, hi to everybody. And I'm going to get doing my matches, sage blessing and protection. And we always do at the start anymore. Fire it up, Sandy. There we go. The sage bundle. And I was trying to look on Pinterest too for ideas of what to do for makeup and stuff for this Friday's Willows Bend After Dark show. And for those who are not familiar, it's the third year we've been doing it of where we cover the darker topics that we tend to, I don't want the regular group full of real dark negative stuff, but for the month of October, I allow it for each Friday of the month. We do a show and I dress up for each one. So I have to get creative and come up with ideas I haven't already done before and keep it original, of course. And I love doing the makeup, but I want some new ideas. So I was looking. Alrighty. Well, I haven't done it yet, guys. Y'all thanking me I haven't done it yet. So at this stage, I cast a circle of protection around everybody in the watching in the audience tonight. May that protection prevent any harm or injurious behavior from anyone or ill will. And if so, may it be mirrored back to them where it came from, and they can keep it to themselves. And may that protection follow them out into everyone's personal lives, keeping them safe from harm or ill will. And also, may everyone be granted financial abundance, happiness, and joy, and health free of illness or disease. So I will it, so mote it be. There we go. That was a good one, right? I threw in a few extras tonight. Let me move Willows be over. Put sage up there to finish its little smoldering. It'll go out at some point here. Hi, Deb, you made it. How are you, lady? Welcome. Okay. So hopefully that'll manifest for everybody, because who can't use that, right? Hi, Renee and Miss Beautiful Tanya and Brenda. Exactly, you know, throw in that stuff. I've been working on manifesting it for myself, but hey, put it out there for you guys too. Okay. That one hit my life exactly, health and wealth. Yeah, I've been really focusing on that for myself, to have financial abundance and acknowledging the blessings I do currently have in my life, which are many, many, many. And I fully own that. And I'm very grateful to everything I have in my life, including you guys. And then also to try to manifest good health and vitality and all that stuff, and free of illness or disease or anything else, you know. And I think it can be done. Just got to focus 5 minutes a day for each thing and then rock on. Don't keep going back to it throughout the day, just for 5 minutes a day. And it's been recommended that if it's the financial abundance one, to do something where you're spending a little bit, you go to demonstrate something you would do if you had financial abundance, where you may buy something. It could be small. It doesn't have to be go out and buy like a new car or something, but you know, buy a brand name of something rather than a generic, or you know, something simple like that, and that's enough to kind of promote it into being. So anyhow, that's what I've been doing. So, okay, so the Black Pyramid in Alaska, and I hope everyone's well, by the way. I saw many of you Saturday night for when I did readings, and it turns out the person who I was supposed to do one for kind of got the days of the week mixed up, forgot about the appointment, and it didn't end up happening. However, I jumped into a secondary one, so it kind of worked out, but anyhow. So the Black Pyramid in Alaska, and again, thank you to my beautiful admin, Sandy Miller, for recommending this as a topic. Exactly, Tanya. It can be as simple as that. You know, just something, you know, Dawn dish liquid versus the generic, whatever. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant, but something that would demonstrate, you know, that you wouldn't worry about those types of things if you were financially abundant, right? You know, so I have been focusing on that. Sorry, I'm a little twisty tangly here. Let me fix this real quick. There we go. Okay. Sweetheart, you haven't seen my whole apartment. And so trust me, it's, you know, it's small, it's tiny. There's no storage space. It's, you know, far from perfect, but it's enough. So it works, you know. It is interesting, Sandy. And I briefly, after you first suggested it, I had never heard of it before initially. And then right after you had suggested it as a topic, I came across the mention of it in something I was watching, but still really had no idea what it was. So I like those topics where I'm learning by doing the research in order to give it to you guys. And no, please do not come and TP my place. Absolutely not. I've never agreed with doing that. I always felt too guilty to do it as a kid. Like, you know, I don't want to be so mean to do that to somebody or soap your windows and what have you. Like, no, that's mean. So I never did anything like that as a kid. So, hi, Ted. Oh, they've had it on the History Channel. Interesting, Sandy. Yeah, I don't have cable, so I am completely reliant on like YouTube, Facebook, watch videos, that type of thing, or going and looking up a specific topic by name type deal. But other than that, that's the closest I can to any sort of mainstream media source, I guess you'd call it. So what is the Black Pyramid? It's still on. I just don't know what night. Oh, it's an ongoing thing that they have on the History Channel on it. I'm surprised because not a significant amount. And like, it's not like, you know, you can walk up and visit her or something. So the Black Pyramid theory first emerged on May 22nd, 1992, when China tested their own 1 megaton device, which resulted in incredible seismic patterns found under the Earth's crust. And that led to like investigation on the what those seismic things were registering. So no, I'm good on toilet paper. Thanks, Renee, though. Right, Brenda? Yeah, don't waste it. Exactly. And for anybody who happens to be seeing the show outside of my Facebook group, if you see me looking up to the side, it's because I'm monitoring the chat from my Facebook group because that's where the majority of people see it. So that's what I'm commenting on, is their comments in the show. And if anybody is interested outside of Facebook land who happens to see the show, then I can be found on Facebook on the Willows Bend is the name of the group. It's kind of a open spiritual group for whatever your path is. You're going to be supported, given respect, and never disrespected. I don't deal with drama and all that jazz in my shows or groups or anything else. Like, be who you are supposed to be and meant to be, become all you can be, and I will support you on your journey, whatever it is. This is kind of where I stand on all that. So the Willows Bend is the name of that. My Facebook page is Beyond the Veil, if anyone's interested in that. So back to the topic. Okay, so they measured these patterns of seismic activity and kind of noticed some anomalies, which led to further investigation. So this led to experts scanning out the Earth, and they came across what they think is a really large pyramid underneath Alaska. Absolutely not, Sandy. I don't tolerate that BS. So this information of there being this pyramid underground in Alaska was validated by a U.S. Army officer named Douglas, and please forgive me if I butcher his name, but Muchler. So from here out, we're just going to call him Doug because it's easier. He actually was referred to in further research by Doug, so I'm not like taking any license with his name. So there's a woman who is really known for her reporting of let's say less than mainstream topics in terms of, I mean, she's done some really in-depth studies on things that are valid things, you know, so it's not all just conspiracy theory things. Excuse me, like she's done. So I'm going to give like a little bio so you know about her, because many may have heard of the name but don't know much about her. So Linda Moulton Howe is the woman's name, and she's a reporter for the Gaia channel currently, and she's authored several different books. So Linda is a graduate of Stanford University with a master's degree in communications. She's devoted her career to documentary films, TV, radio, the web, writing, and reporting, and spending her career exploring science, medical, and topics, environmental situations, and real X-File news type of things via a website. Well, that's kind of what this is, Sandy. No, it is that. Yeah, no, you got the right one. My front yard forked one. How does one fork one's yard? I don't understand that one, but okay. No, she is still alive. Yep, she's been on Ancient Aliens as well, correct? So she is still alive. I mean, she's an older lady, but she's had quite a career spanning, I want to say since the 60s, really, with exploring these different topics and doing in-depth studies on everything from cattle mutilation to environmental situations of like nuclear waste runoff into lakes, and, you know, the killing of massive bodies of water from nuclear waste being dumped in them and stuff like that. She brings that type of stuff to light. So she has her own website called earthfiles.com. She's been Emmy nominated and an honored producer on medical and science programming in ABC in Boston, Massachusetts. Classic Forbes all over. Wow. Okay, I can't even imagine that. And I just got kicked out of my group. I hate when that happens. My signal must fluctuate or something and it boots me. me get back in, guys. There I am. Am I back? Give me chat. There we go. Okay, got my chat back. So she's also explored global animal mutilation phenomena, like I said, worked producing and reporting on Coast to Coast AM radio with Art Bell, who he is deceased, but the show still continues. And that is kind of funny. Yes, it is kind of funny about forking. Never heard of that one. Also has explored and reported on Göbekli Tepe, which I have covered that topic in Willows Bend before. It's like one of the oldest known archaeological sites out there. She went out there, she explored the whole site in depth, researched the crap out of it, and so she's presented many things on that as well. Linda Moulton Howe believes in this alleged pyramid is related to the Alaskan Triangle. And if anyone saw the show reminder photo I posted today, it shows it's more like an isosceles, but the Alaskan Triangle of where it's supposed to be located. The Alaskan Triangle is likened to the Bermuda Triangle, but connects Anchorage to Barrow and Juneau in Alaska, where people go missing at an alarming rate. Nobody. No, Renee, I think it's a unique thing unto your area, maybe. So some of the disappearances that have happened in this Alaskan Triangle. So there was a small, and this was a huge deal when it happened. A small private plane in 1972 carrying U.S. House Majority Leader Hale Boggs, Alaskan Congressman Nick Bagish, I think is how you'd say his name, who was an aide, Russell Brown, and their Bush pilot. Yes, there have been a lot of Bigfoot sightings there as well. The Bush pilot's name was Don Johns, seemingly vanished into thin air while flying from Anchorage to Juneau. And for more than a month, 50 civilian and 40 military aircraft, dozens of boats also searched an area of 32,000 miles without a trace ever being found of them, the plane, or even any debris. To this day, it's not been found. This happened like back in 1988 when they disappeared. Since then, not a single trace of them has turned up. So Moulton Howe feels that the pyramid is connected somehow to the Alaskan Triangle in terms of kind of like what is the thought of to be what's behind the Bermuda Triangle. And there are other places around the globe where this effect seems to happen, where when you're flying, it impacts people's control panels within their planes and causing them to go down, and navigational tools to just like go haywire, and people get turned around, and multitude of disappearances. And of course, with Alaska, as far as people going missing, it is still a very wild state in the United States, if you will, to where, yes, it's all been mapped out and such, but, it's some harsh living conditions, and much is uninhabited and just, really dense forest areas. And so some of the disappearance, of course, can be related to that, weather related, hikers getting lost, that sort of thing. But there's a lot that are unexplained as well that still have no answers. So, hey, Marianne. So this pyramid that's alleged to be underneath the surface of Alaska is believed to be the largest artificial structure ever built on Earth, even bigger than the Great Pyramid of Giza. And again, this comes from, them testing out after the fact, after China set off their bomb, that of what came back in scans and such of that area it kind of exposed. I mean, it didn't like blow open a hole in the earth or anything, but they set off their thing, and like, I'm guessing in the form of vibrations and so forth, hey, there's something down there that is not responding like the rest of the earth underground. And that's what kind of alluded to it. You've seen the forks thing too, Tanya? I have never ever heard of that before. So 6 months after China tested their little 1 ton megaton thing, Channel 13 on NBC aired a newscast in Anchorage about how they registered a large pyramid underground in Alaska. The news reported this, broadcast it, talked about it, etc. U.S. Army officer Doug, that we talked about a minute ago. The spelling of his last name is convoluted, and I don't even know what its origins are. It sounds almost maybe German, European, Muchler, something like that. So he went to get a copy of the tape that reported it. When he saw it, he was in like a room with like 40 guys who were witness to this news report airing. And so, he got to see that he wasn't the only one who knew this thing aired, right? Hi, Sandy. So he went to get a copy of this tape. He found it an interesting topic. He wanted to explore it. And he went to the news station to see, hey, can I buy a copy? He's willing to pay for it even. The news station denied ever having aired the report. Never happened. They just said, no, we don't know what you're talking about. There was never a news report on a Black Pyramid. But again, there's 40 people in the room just with him who saw this report air on TV. And so he wasn't making it up. He didn't hallucinate it or dream it. It was witnessed by 40 other people besides himself. And that's not to say that's the only people who saw it, of course, but he had the validation of knowing when he saw it, it was with a group of people who also witnessed that, yes, this did air. And the news station is now in denial of it. So that alone, red flag, obviously. So when he was going to leave, he kept noticing that like one of the texts and stuff was kind of trying to get his attention. So he pulled the guy aside and went to talk to him. And the guy confirmed that, yes, it did actually air, but it doesn't exist any longer. And that's all he would say. And the guy up and walked away. Now, Muchler, Doug, is a retired counterintelligence officer, just as like for his credentials. So it's not just some random U.S. Army officer. He did counterintelligence, so kind of, high up and used to being able to get secretive information and so forth. So he kind of went on his own investigation. So in 1989, he got maps of Alaska, and he found this large portion of the map was kind of whited out on the western part of Alaska. And text said as of 1970 to 72 that the area had not been surveyed. He knew all of Alaska got mapped out back in during after World War II, all of Alaska got mapped out. So it all was accounted for. Oh, okay. I was going to say someone said that they did have a heart attack. I was like, what? So that he knew this wasn't true, that it was mapped out. But this is saying that as recent as 1970 to 72, it hadn't been. But again, we're going back to World War II when it did get done. Well, we see your comments, Sandy Fritz. So you're in. You are in, darling. You can always go to the Soma Fusion Media Network's Facebook page as well to watch it there. If you have trouble getting into the post in a group, you should be able to just click it and have it open, and then you can see it from there. But we do see you, Sandy, just so you know. But if you can't get in still, after, the post will appear in the Facebook group, just click it and it'll open up and then you can participate in chat, but we see you commenting. So you're in. You may not, I don't know what it's showing on your end, but we see you. Or you can always go over to the YouTube channel, Soma Fusion YouTube channel, subscribe to it and watch us there, because any comments you make in YouTube will appear here too. So anyhow, so he knew that, again, all of Alaska had been mapped out after World War II. And this map was saying as of 1972, it hadn't been. Well, there's like a 40-year difference there to know when, like, it was done already. So this area was the south of Mount McKinley toward the west near Nome, the Nome area of Alaska. This aligned with where the mysteriously lost newscast said that the pyramid is. So in the newscast, they talked about it being by Mount McKinley, and but again, this mysteriously disappeared. Now, what I think happened is because it's meant to be kept secret, if you will, that, the government doesn't want that information out there because they're wanting it for their own hands, of course. And so I think they confiscated the newscast. Like, it wasn't meant to be made public, and they did it anyway and jumped the gun. And I think it got, possessed by them. Not, that's why that the news company or the broadcast station didn't still have it, because it was taken. So jump ahead a few years to 1993, when Doug, again, we're going to call him Doug, he went to Fort Meade, Maryland for something work related. He said that they have storehouses. Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, it's kind of obvious, but disappeared, and they're denying it as well. Then they probably got threatened in some way to be shut down by the government, what have you, and like hush hush. So he went to this base on Fort Meade, Maryland. He knew that they had, or said that there's storehouses there of archives. So he asked to see information on archaeological sites in Alaska. And again, the back of his head, he's kind of looking up and thinking about looking up the Black Pyramid, but he didn't come out and overtly say that, here it is, this is what I want. He just asked for the archaeological sites in Alaska. He was given some material, and as soon as he sat down to review it, he said 2 men showed up, standing over top of him in front of his table, telling him that he doesn't need to know about that information. He told them he was just looking for something, left it very random, and they said they knew what he was looking for. So I'm guessing that maybe the station had reported back to whomever had taken the news report tapes, basically let us know if anybody should come inquiring about this, because they knew he was looking for information on that. So he said they don't want us messing with them there anymore. And he wondered, who are they? Because I didn't say any credentials of who they were, where they were from, or how they knew he was looking on for information on that. They didn't say anything about that. They didn't offer any of it. They just said, you don't need to know about that. So never mind, and stop messing with us. Yeah. So a shipment to the Black Pyramid. So now, that was weird. I saw Katie kind of pop on, her name pop on. A shipment to the Black Pyramid. So at this point in the game, we're really looking at the so when you have second generation people who are reporting on stuff, they're kind of considered to be like legends, if you will. They are the next generation in line who are carrying forward this information that may have happened from a while back, or maybe somebody from, in their childhood or their early adulthood told them this information. And the original people who told them are now dead and passed away. And so they're carrying it onward and swearing that it's truth. So a couple of stories have come to light regarding this type of information, of people who are in the know, who pass this story down to the next generation, and now they're carrying it forward, and they are swearing on all that is sacred to them, and under they said they will swear on anything, that this is valid information that got told to them. They've stuck to their story, and that's what it is. So one of those was a gentleman by the name of Bruce Pearson, and he was the son of his father, who served on a patrol torpedo boat during World War II. And he remembers his father telling him a story of an underground facility in Alaska. So his father said that they moved to, and I hope I don't mispronounce this, Unalakleet, there we go. And he'd made friends with a pilot who was an Air Force pilot. And he was on the base one day, just kind of hanging out. He was still active duty. And this pilot kind of asked, hey, you want to come along for a classified delivery? And so he kind of said, sure, why not? So they flew off in the guy's helicopter, and he said that it was about a 2-hour ride outside of Unalakli, where he had to unload, refuel the copter, and then return back to base. The pilot said they were going to a weird installation, quote unquote. The co-pilot jumped in on the conversation, his dad said, and added that it's underground and a power generating facility. Wait, isn't there one? Well, Brenda, they have, so she's asking, isn't there one in Antarctica too? Pyramid structures have been spotted in Antarctica, and mainstream archaeology and science is saying, oh no, it's just the tops of the mountains that are being photographed, not showing the rest of the structure. It's just a peak, and that's what people are thinking is a pyramid. But satellite photos picked up on actual pyramid structures in Antarctica. This one is underground in Alaska, or supposed to be underground in Alaska, where these are the ones in Antarctica are above surface, because at one time Antarctica was a very rainforest tropical environment. The fossil record is supporting of that having been the case, but now of course it's been iced over. So, but the structures are still there and been kind of just frozen in place in time, and that's also helped kind of, I think, protect them to have them still be seen and standing. So this is something separate from that. This is in Alaska, that's alleged to be underground, where those are right on the surface. So the pilot jumped in on the conversation between his dad and the helicopter pilot, and the pilot said that they were going to a quote weird installation. The co-pilot jumped in and he added that it's underground and it's a power generating facility, he called it. And he said that it's not something we built, and that it's thousands of years old. It's cut stone like a pyramid, and they can't figure out what it is. The pilot went on to tell Bruce's father that it could power the whole state of Alaska and Canada, and they don't know where it came from. He said they were also escorted by an airplane that kind of flew with them, overseeing them making the delivery as well the whole time during this 2-hour flight. He said they, upon nearing the facility, the pilot then warned Bruce's father that, oh, just heads up, the instrument, something's weird with that thing down there, and it always makes all the instrument panel go nuts. So be prepared. It's okay. We're going to be safe, and don't worry about it, but be prepared. It's going to happen. And so upon nearing the facility, just like the pilot said, everything went haywire, and that they had to fly by sight alone only to make it on, to the base. Upon landing, Bruce's father said 6 guys came up, lifted off 3 really heavy metal cases. Nothing was said. They just came and grabbed these boxes off the helicopter. And his father said that it was in the middle of nowhere. And he said he did take note that there was a blockhouse, a fuel dump, a motor pool shed, and a garage also in this vicinity. They really were only there for a few minutes, long enough to unload, refuel, and take off. They were told to take off again right after that. So it wasn't as if he even got off the helicopter, but this is what he saw while looking around while sitting on a helicopter. He also described a couple of mine shaft elevators off to the side and guard houses on them, and that they were surrounded by razor wire fences. He said there was also a Jeep with a 50 caliber machine gun pointed at them the entire time. He noted that the armed personnel wore black uniforms with no insignia on them, so nothing signifying what branch of the military they may have been from. They usually have patches and medals or markings on the uniform. These are just straight black uniforms, nothing on them to denote who they belong to, so it may have been a special forces of some kind. but he, nothing signified who they belonged to or what branch. He said on the return trip that the pilot told him that it is a super, try that again. It's a super secret, as the Manhattan Project was, and that no one is supposed to know it even exists. And Bruce stands by the story that his father told him after all these years. And he said that another story that his father shared with him was of an electrical engineer who was recruited by the military to go to work at an underground structure in Alaska. They called it the Dark Pyramid, quote unquote. Now, this story is kind of reminiscent of, I don't know how many of you know about Bob Lazar. So Bob Lazar was this figure who back in the 1980s, he came forward as kind of a whistleblower, and he talked about that he had been brought into Area 51 as a scientist. He described everything in great detail, from how where he started out, and as far as like his day, he would show up at this one like airstrip that was like a privately owned airstrip. He'd be flown to one location where he would then load a bus with darkened windows so they couldn't see out, and then drive out to a different area from there, and then unload and go into work. But he said it was on part of Area 51, and everybody thought, this guy's Lulu, like what the hell's the matter with him? And oh, what a joke. What did he take, and smoke that morning? And thought he was crazy. And yet since then, information has come out about Area 51 validating things that he talked about. There have also been other people who've come forward who worked on Area 51 base at that time as pilots, what have you, and they're now retired and so forth. And he's come forward saying, oh yeah, no, I remember seeing Bob Lazar there. I remember seeing his name on the roster sheets and stuff. So yeah, he's a real guy, and he was really here because somebody, people were questioning that as well. I froze. I'm not frozen on my side, so it looks like I'm going again. Let me know if I'm still frozen, guys, or if you can hear me or not. I'll wait a second and see if, yeah, I'm still looking like I'm active on my end when I'm looking at the screen of my thing. So yeah, maybe you're having internet issues again, Sandy. I feel so bad for her because she's always got internet issues. Yeah, I'm okay on my end as far as me looking at myself talking and then looking at the view of what you guys are seeing within the show. So that's, I just jumped out of there. Let me open it back up. Okay, so this guy, people have come forward validating, oh yeah, no, Bob Lazar, he knows what he's talking about. I remember seeing him there. He was on our roster sheets of like employees who'd be coming in and stuff, and validated all this for him. But back in the day, he was completely ostracized as making it all up, and he's just some crazy guy who doesn't know what he's talking about. So this engineer's story is very similar in nature to Bob Lazar. At least that's the first thing I thought about during the research when I encountered this story, was like, wow, that sounds like his experience. But in a different location, of course. We're not in Area 51 in Kansas anymore. Area 51 is not Kansas, but you know what I mean. Okay, so this engineer had said in 1951, now again, this is another story that Bruce's dad told him, that he knew of this guy, and he, in conversation with him as well, right, he's had death threats on him, and all the whistleblowers have had death threats on them for coming forward. Even when they're not mentioning names, they get forewarned a lot by both their peers that are still active duty, in addition to people coming up to them saying, if you continue with this, guess what? Something's going to happen. And sure enough, they do have things happen. Or they try to discredit them. They lose businesses and their livelihoods. I mean, the whole 9 yards. Threats are made, but they're followed up on. So this engineer said that in 1959, he was taken to Unalakleet by a military bus with blacked out windows so nobody could see out. He had to first attend a camp for about a 4-week-long orientation. Then he was sent to work on this project. He said that he had to go down an elevator. He would count off, like, so it said that those types of elevators and elevator shafts descend like 1 foot per second. So he counted about how to figure out how far down this descent was that he went. And he said it was at least 700 to 800 feet below the surface, guesstimation. And that he worked in an enclosed building that was in the corner of the pyramid. He said there were tunnels around the base of the pyramid made of concrete, and in the corners of the pyramid were rooms that functioned as control rooms. Hey, beautiful Mindy. How was my lovely sister? So he said there were even bedrooms and a kitchen in this room of the pyramid where he worked. He said he'd work for an entire week straight and then have 2 days off. So he worked there, he said, from 1959 to, brand new notebook and pages. So things are sticking in it. And I skipped a page of my notes, apparently. It happens. He worked there from 1959 until 1961. Hey, Karen. Yep, late again. So yeah, you are working for 3 people simultaneously. Well, then you deserve that beer, my dear. So he doesn't know what the pyramid was made of or who made it. Interestingly, this story, again, like I said, is very similar to what Bob Lazar talked about in how he got to the base and so forth. So, you know, it in very hush-hush in nature. So our friend Doug contacted Linda Moulton Howe, writing a big letter to her asking for her to get the word out and for her to see what she could find on a disappeared story. And she did, because it piqued her interest. And she said, right up my alley. So Linda reports that too, that as far as the missing news report, that Doug said he and 40 other guys were present watching that report, and that the discovery may have been found by groups sent up there to work on a Project Alice. So what Project Alice was back in right after like World War II. They were really feeling, the United States government was feeling very vulnerable after World War II to the possible influence or attack through Russia, and, you know, everything above us and from there down. So they went up to build basically a warning system, a wall, if you will, not a literal wall, but it was like a defense alert system. So, hey, if something should come over, you know, the boundary line of Canada into the US and Alaska, that they would get notified that, hey, heads up, this is what's happening or coming. So that's what this Project Alice was about. And that Doug said that he thought that maybe that, well, Linda said it too, that the pyramid may have actually been discovered during the construction of this self-defense system, if you will. She said, Linda also said that the engineer reported that the top of the pyramid was a good 150 feet down from the surface. She also adds that the story from the guy in the helicopter and the mother of that son, so Bruce's mom, where she was married to the guy, Bruce's dad, who told him the story of having flown on a helicopter to the base. So his mom, she spoke to and validated the story from her husband and Bruce's father, and said Linda could never give out their names because of the consequences to people's military pensions, etc. If even their spouses happen to have signed non-disclosure statements, that it would affect the family of the sources. So like, you can't ever say our names for, like, you know, really tell who we are. So that's where his father's name is never given. And I don't even know if Bruce's name is actually real because of that. I did not see that video of the beach. I'll have to check it out and see. So another source that Linda has, and she's really good about keeping her sources private and protected, and values that confidentiality very, very highly. She takes it serious. She never discloses her sources, as a good reporter shouldn't, in order to keep them as a source anyway. So she reported, or another source had reported to her, that alien presence, and they were another anonymous military personnel, the one who reported this to her, that there was 3 competing advanced civilizations existing, that Homo sapiens sapiens, which us, took a knee to basically some 3 to 4 million years ago to worship these, quote, gods. And by all reports, from the ancient civilizations, that these gods said that they would return before, without a given time said for that return, but they all have said they would. Now, that information's validated through many, many sources, from the Sumerian texts through the Aztecs, the Mayans. I mean, every mainstream civilization that we know of that's an ancient civilization have all validated contact with beings that they perceive to be gods, because they came from the sky, and anything coming from the sky must be a god, in their eyes. And so that humans vowed, basically, like swearing their allegiance to these beings, and that they would return at some point, without ever saying, oh, by this date we will return. That was never said, but they always, all in every story, no matter what set of peoples they came from, all have that as part of their stories, that the beings said that they would return someday. So this military personnel is saying that he validated that it is accurate information. He validated that Earth has been being monitored for some time now, to both our destruction of the planet, as well as all of the fighting from organized religions over whose God is better. And there will be a time when they do openly reappear to make good on that vow that humans took so long ago, and that this pyramid was one of their structures. So this military personnel guy discloses to Linda that, validating that, yes, this pyramid belonged to those beings that came from out there, and that this was one of theirs. And we still are trying to figure it out, but it puts out enough power to power all the state of Alaska, which is a very large territory, as well as the country of Canada. That's a lot of power. And then another gentleman associated, who is famed from the Ancient Aliens TV show, he's a contributor. He's also a professional lecturer, filmmaker, and researcher of ancient civilizations, consciousness, science, and new paradigms of energy and matter. He adds that, quote, there is no doubt in my mind that there's a cover-up going on, and that something was found there. I almost skipped the page. In Alaska. I think the reason why it has been covered up is that we would have to completely rewrite the science of human origins. The concept at one point that there was global industrialized civilizations that had reached a technology, in fact, superior to our own, because we cannot easily build pyramids like this today, end quote. I find that to be pretty accurate in terms of, I think that is ultimately what's behind the fear of disclosing all that information to the general public. Oh, excuse me, because it would have to rewrite human origins, and it would defy the Darwin's theory of evolution and so forth if it's, to rewrite it. And they're so tight-lipped over disclosing anything regarding extraterrestrials, alien life, that, they're just barely now admitting to the existence of them. I'm not sure if that's the black walnuts falling off the tree or if they're doing something next door. It seems pretty rhythmic, so I think they're doing something. So we have seen reports coming out over the last decade that pyramids exist on every single continent of the world, and we truly have no firm proof of the holders of that technology or where it came from. We need to remember that far back that the Earth was a very different place than it is today, as well, as far as the organization of the continents, what the environment was, what now has snow and ice was once tropical and, like a rainforest type of environment. I know, right? I don't know what they're doing out there, if they're banging out a trash can or what it is. Sometimes when those black walnuts fall, they're kind of like super hard crab apples. And if they hit certain things, like my air conditioner sticking out the window, for example, it'll make that noise, but that's too frequent to be those. So yeah, it does sound like that. And they maybe even be doing that, Sandy. I don't know. I know they had company over there, which usually means they're going to have a late night party. Finally had struggles this time. Sorry, Annette. If anyone ever has trouble getting on, you can also view it through the Soma Fusion Facebook page and or YouTube channel for Soma Fusion. And then after it's aired, I go in and save from Soma Fusion into my channel on YouTube, just so there's an extra copy out there. That guy brought his parakeet. It was awesome. I'm not sure what you're, oh, must be in a video or something. Huh. So I'm sorry you had to miss most of the show, but if you're interested, you can always rewatch it, of course. So again, the world was a totally different place back when those pyramids were all built. The organization of the Earth, the continents, the plate tectonic shifting and separating into what we know today, as well as all the environments that exist on every part of the continent. Oh, okay, Karen. Yeah, I'll have to try to find your video because I didn't see any notification of it. So we have found evidence showing that once Antarctica was, like the frozen tundra, was once a tropical place. And so, like Brenda mentioned, the pyramids in Antarctica, yeah, they could certainly be there as well because it was different then. But this is underground. So Parakeet's picture. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll have to, like I said, go looking for it once I'm off the air. So Linda Moulton Howe says that we found this from the massive electromagnetic signals that this pyramid thing gives off. So as far as that Project Alice thing I mentioned, what they call it is the dew line system. It's the distant early warning system that was built in the 1950s. Like I said, it was basically to tell them if somebody was attacking, they picked up any unusual radio signals or communications happening. But they kept getting EMIs, which is electromagnetic interference, that they said is basically like a radio static. And they tried to isolate its source, and that's when this hidden underground pyramid was found. We do have 3 Sandys, yes. So in an article I found in the search about this pyramid stuff in the research last night, that was written by an Anthony Tyler, he stated that his great uncle, Charles Edwards, also claims to have seen that mysterious news report, the same one that Doug saw that night. So another source validating that, yes, the station did air this, and they are now taking the stance of, no, we never aired anything like that. We don't know what you're talking about. There's no tape like that. No, I don't know where you got that from. He went on to research it locally. This Anthony guy did. He went on to research it locally and, of course, found nothing about the report around his area where he lives. Nobody seemed to know anything. Everybody denied anything. So what do you guys think? I mean, do you think it exists despite no hard evidence of it? Oh, about the early warning system, Sandy? Yeah, I had never heard of it before, but I guess that's in addition to, China blowing their bomb off, that's also what led to the alleged discovery of this pyramid, was that they kept picking up electromagnetic interference coming through to that dew system, the early warning system. So interesting. I mean, do you think this thing really does exist? I mean, I think it does after the research. Government says it doesn't, then I'm sure it does. Yeah, right. Like that, if they are in plausible denial of it. And again, I think that Doug's credentials kind of speak to the fact that he's, a reasonably valid individual to get information from about this stuff. So when he says that people showed up and leave us alone, don't bother us with this, and you don't need to know about that. That's probably valid and did happen. And it took place on a military base too. So now, do you think that ancient civilizations built it if it does exist, or that older alien technology built it? Yeah, they're having a party next door. Put your thinking caps on, guys. I always ask you to at the end of the show to discuss the topic. Karen says aliens. It's an alien ship. Thinking older alien technology. Yeah, I'm inclined to the alien technology thing, because now certain pyramids, yes, I think that humans may have built them, but with alien technology. And others, I know when we did, what show was it? Nakoblecky Tepe. It was the one that had those giant stone, they were shaped like H's that are still standing all over the site. And that, they think that a massive flood came through and destroyed what the original site was. But all the remnants are still there, and you can still see all the machinations on the stone that we can't create today. So it was that, I know it was that show. And we talked to my guide Timote during that, who validated that, yes, there was, this race of beings are responsible for bringing that technology into those people in different areas of the world at different times. And there are others races that would just want to sit back and see how we would evolve on our own without intervention, which that show happened long before the show on Sumeria. And I didn't know that until I did the show on Sumerian texts, that the whole story with Sumeria of the Enlil and Enki, those supposed brothers who were the quote gods who came down, so what he told me validates that, in that about the two different races of beings, that one wanted to let us evolve on our own and others wanted to give that technology to them. So that kind of validates that. And long before we did that show and I knew anything about the Sumerian texts. So hi, Christina. So anyway, that's pretty much all that is known or been validated about this alleged Black Pyramid to date. It's still a whole lot of unknownness because it's kept so hush-hush. But I also believe the story that Bruce guy told, that his father said to him about this helicopter flight, what happened to him on it, what he saw. So it's obviously a very well-protected installation of some sort that goes underground, because he saw the elevator shafts and they were, even the helicopter, just so that they didn't try anything. They had this, massive machine gun pointed at them the entire time, just in case anybody tried anything funny. So to prevent that, and that they just then were told to take off. After it was unloaded and refueled, I'm guessing they kind of implied like the refueling happened at the same time as the unloading of the equipment or those boxes. And then they just were, nobody even said a word. They just signaled to them to take off. And then they were escorted back again by this plane, like making sure that they went where they were supposed to go. And just like the plane escorted them in to make sure they actually delivered whatever was in those boxes, that they didn't take off or that they tried something stupid. So obviously it was something of value that they were taking down there. So whatever it is, whether it's a pyramid or not, I mean, we have one eyewitness report on what he saw, that it was, he did see a pyramid structure under there. And because of, because many facets of his discussion on how, the training and him taking this bus with the blacked out windows and all that to the site and working down in there was very similar to Bob Lazar's. I find him pretty credible as well. So that's the only eyewitness report we have of somebody who actually saw it, the structure. So I think it exists and that a whole lot more is unknown about it, but it's a massive power source, whatever it is. But all the pyramids are said to be able to do that. And it's thought that they are somehow connected around the world with the pyramids, if they were powered up, that like they used to be, that they were either portals for those beings to come in through or used to power that area of the earth. So very believable to me about the helicopter ride. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I did add a couple of different topics to the voting list this week. You think they would use them for voting? Yeah, but they don't want us to have access to free power. That, again, anything that involves money for the higher businesses, they don't want us to have that. But I was watching a show by David Wilcox before while I was getting ready for tonight. A little bit longer, but I think it's worth it. I saved it into Willows Bend, I believe. No, I saved it to the Beyond the Veil page. So if anyone's interested, it is there. It is a bit longer of a documentary, but like a lot of, now I don't completely 100% agree with every single thing he talked about in there, but a lot of it, yes, I do find valid. So, oh, absolutely. And that's why Tesla lost his lab and all of his workings and such, and lost all his funding. Once he started coming out that he wanted the world to have free power, all of his backers that supported him financially backed out. And there went his ability to be able to finish building his tower that could broadcast that. So, it again, it didn't want it. Didn't the ancient pyramids have copper coils like the Baghdad battery? If there was something like that found there, I'm not sure, but they do know that even though it's said that by Egypt that the pyramids were built like tombs or to be tombs, there has been never anything found in any of the Egyptian pyramids signifying that it was meant to be a tomb. There was no sarcophagi found in there or anything else leading to the belief that that was like going to be someone's final resting place. So I think that they had different uses in or was working with those beings that brought in the technology to humans. How it got used, I mean, I have a couple different theories, but I don't have anything, obviously absolutely validating any of them. I think the pyramids could be powered up and that they could potentially either provide power to that area that the pyramids sat in, or they were used by those who gave the technology, whether it was to help them come in or help them land or what have you. But I know in the Egyptian pyramid was said to have like a gold type of cap on top of the point of the pyramid, and that's now missing. And gold comes up over and over and over again as having massively high value, whether it is through the Sumerian stories or other alien stories that gold has a high value, even to us humans. And it's been even speculated, is that something that's programmed into us if we were used once as a worker class, a cajillion years ago, and they got programmed into us to value gold the way that our society does. Is that why we value gold? I mean, I personally don't prefer gold. Obviously, I don't wear any gold. I don't care for it, but right, exactly, Karen. Aliens come here for our minerals. And it's thought that, they came to mine gold for helping sustain their atmospheres. So I think that, that ties in, and we just don't have all of the information, although it's said that there are ancient texts within the pyramids hidden like between the walls type of thing that tells how to power them up. However, Egypt will not allow any further excavations, even like, tiny pinholes allowing for the tiny cameras to be inserted in. They won't allow anything like that to further, explore it. I prefer silver as well. Yeah. Yes, Bob Lazar did bring evidence forward. He talked about a new element that they were working with in Area 51, which again, everyone thought he was nutso, but then science came out in mainstream, I think it was, like a decade later, give or take, stating that they discovered this new element, but he talked about it back in the 80s, which it wasn't publicly known about back then. So I think there's a whole lot more information there that we just don't have the knowledge of anymore. I mean, if you think about every generation of people, once we're gone, the ones that come after us, they won't know much about us unless, there's writings or something else that are found describing us. Each generation seems to kind of forget the ones that came before. And so it's even thought that there have been multiple resets that have happened of planet Earth through global catastrophes, and then kind of a reseeding, if you will, of the planet to get it started again. Which, hey, I say why not? It's possible, because I know the flood story at least is documented all through every major society on the planet has their own flood story, and also that there have been others that suggested there's been 6 or 7 different ancient generations of ancient civilizations that existed before us, but we only find the archaeological remnants of the last 1 or 2 before us still standing, and the others are long gone to time. Too bad the comet will just be close. Yeah, but I don't want to, I don't think I got work to do yet. I'm not ready to go yet. It's not my time to go. Yeah, I believe that too, Sandy, because mainstream science still hasn't come forward yet and said that yes, this came from obvious. I don't know how they can still deny its existence, considering the technology that was used to build those sites. We don't even necessarily always have the equipment to replicate it in today's world. And we are how many thousands of years afterward? And there's at least 2 that I know of civilizations that we've covered in the Willows Bend shows that all the research has said that it is not known where they came from or where they went. They just disappeared. And where did they go? And yet they had this whole big advanced civilization that they created, and they're building structures, because there's certain criteria that people have to meet in order to have it considered a civilization, including language, building structures, and writings or some form of communication that gets documented or statuary, things like that, and food sources, water sources, of course, and so forth. And so, like I said, with those, we have no idea where those people came from, who they were related to, or where they disappeared to. Archaeological record of them just ceases. So did they return home? Yeah, maybe. We don't know that. But I don't discount it, because unless I'm given evidence that there empirically says this is what something is, then I don't just automatically run with it. But just say that there is no ancient civilizations before us is, well, I won't use the word I typically call it on air, but ridiculous. There we go. That's a nice way to say it. Those of you who know me best will know what I'm going to say, but we'll suppress that for the year. And it's ridiculous to say that we're it, because these structures are so precise. You can't even fit a piece of paper in between those stones, and they're that perfectly aligned, and they're cut all of these different angles and things to make each stone fit just perfectly like a puzzle piece. And again, we don't even have that technology to make it that precise today. Never mind what existed back then, but they still won't come out and openly say, yes, this is real. And, and people are too worried about their careers, because in those fields of science, archaeology included, being published is everything in those fields. Psychology, archaeology, all the ologies, they really rely, as far as their reputations, their incomes, etc., on being published in very prestigious publications. and none are willing to go up against those and risk ridicule by their peers, and hence from then out lose funding, etc. So they're not willing to come out and say this, even though they privately they may pull somebody aside in the know and say, just so you know, I do support what you're saying, but I can't come out and publicly say it. So hopefully there will come a day where they stop the nonsense and just, give it to us as what they actually know about stuff. And what I know of archaeology, I mean, like I've talked about before, it was my minor in college. I had to study it and learn at least the fundamentals of it. I could go on any dig site anywhere in the world and hold my own against anybody because I have that know-how. And some of it I can date, and I know from what periods different things came from and so forth. And I'm not afraid to speak up, but many are. Just ask the government if they know it's true. If they say they don't know, it doesn't exist. Yeah, exactly. So they treat us like small children. They don't understand anything. Most of it comes from this report that came out back in the 60s after, it was the 50s, that came out after the Area 51 crash supposedly happened, that they hired this outside group that had no idea about any of the alien stuff in general, and kind of speculated of, can the human population handle the truth regarding this stuff? And they were told in the report, no, that they can't, because mass panic would happen. And they used the example of Orson Welles' radio show to kind of say, well, see, this is just a radio show and look how people flipped their wig. But in defense of that, I mean, back then radio was the only source of information. You get official people coming on talking about it like it's a news report. Of course, they're going to believe it. What evidence did they have to the contrary? But things have changed since then, and they haven't wanted to admit that. The government said, it has always covered up and lied to people. They have. But the good thing is, as part of the shift that's been happening for a long time now, I think that it is, and it's a lot of what David Wilcox was talking about in a documentary I watched tonight, was this shift, and that, he had been getting prophecies dating way back into the 80s and 90s on some of the goings on that are happening now, and that he's showing, like, making the comparisons to demonstrate, hey, I channeled this knowledge back in this time, and this is what happened since then on such and such a date. And there is evidence to back up that I gave this back in like 1996 or whatever it was. And, it does talk about that stuff. And a lot of it's all kind of the same. There may be certain like Christian lilts to the information, or, as far as the Christ consciousness goes, etc. But at the base core of the knowledge is the same message you're hearing from all of us teachers who are bringing forward this information and talking about it, is that this is the time things are shifting and being reconstructed. And we're saying no more to just buying into it, whether it's having certain medical treatments forced upon us, or, that fear-based thing, which I talked a lot about when COVID first came out, of not residing in that state of fear about it, because that's kind of what they're trying to promote, that. And that's held true this whole time, except more and more people are now standing up and saying no. And we've already been seeing the beginnings of people standing up and saying, no, you can't force a medical treatment into my body. I won't tolerate that, and walking off the job. And you know what? I say kudos to them that they have the audacity and the wherewithal to stand by their principles and saying no and walking out. I would pat them on the back and say, congratulations on that decision. And it's not so much about whether it's the right thing to do or not, or otherwise. I just think that the government shouldn't dictate that for people, because Annette says, or Lori, I have to go. So I'm putting my vote in for mass hysteria. I will jot that down. Let me see who's calling real quick. It's Bonnie. Let me just tell her I'm still on the air real quick. Hi, honey. I'm still on the air. Love you. Bye. Sorry. She had messaged me after the show started and I didn't answer, so she probably got worried. I will record your vote for mass hysteria. There it is. So all the message is being brought across through all of us who are teachers is really one of the same of stand up, stand your ground, and that, look at things like the concentration camps and, well, persecuting the Jews in by the Nazis, all of that stuff. They're talking about, some people are talking about concern about that, of those who don't get that medical treatment, of being forced into a situation like some form of can't talk tonight, some form of a camp as a result of refusing that medical treatment. And, I don't know if it would go that far, but more and more people are standing up and demanding the truth and saying, no, I'm a sovereign being, and I'm I have the right to my own choices, and how I choose to view things is my own, and across the board. But again, you also heard me say, before you can reconstruct in a better way, you have to deconstruct the current systems in existence. So those camps are already set up at least them states. Really? I did not know that. I don't watch the news or anything, so I haven't heard anything. Is it being like in practice already? So, well, I guess it's already happening, and we did it to many different, more like racially aligned groups of people throughout human history. Whether it was the Asians, whether it was the Jews, we've done genocide, indigenous people, whichever it was, governments have perpetrated this. But if enough people, I think that he said some quote pertaining to 70% of, according to recent polls, of people are now standing up and saying no more, as far as the nonsense and tolerating, going along with what we're told and just kind of blindly accepting it and being part of the herds of people that are just like, oh, okay, and accepting all of it. So that's pretty high number. 70% means we outnumber those who are trying to perpetrate these things. Not in practice, but ready. They're using old Walmarts for them. Wow. Right, Nancy. And I've seen that. And I've seen many who've just refused to get it and then walk out because that's their right. And they, it shouldn't be up to the government to dictate whether we take a medical treatment or not, or same thing, I believe, as far as, the abortion rights stuff. It's not that I'm in support of abortions, but I think it should be a right to our own bodies through anything. It doesn't matter what it is. The government shouldn't dictate that for us. So, they have their own agendas. Heard that some police officers retired early because they refused the vaccine. It wouldn't surprise me. And he even talked about how, like these elite beings in the government, higher ups, whatever, are behind all the rioting and everything else that's happened. And so you see something like that going on, don't run out there and join in just because it's happening. And if you do, don't take anything that can be held against you should you get arrested or whatever. Like, just stay out of it and recognize that it's not organically happening by the people seeking justice and whatever. It's being started by others. But again, things have to be deconstructed before they can get rebuilt in a positive way. So, and I've been bringing you guys that message since I've been on the air, at least for 3 years now, that I got told that about 5 or 6 years ago, that it's going to get bad before it gets better. The country is going to get so much worse. Only temporarily, Brenda. One has to have hope, though, that it will get better. But again, you got to shake it up in order to break down the existing systems in place that aren't working. Because how else do you put new ones in place? You're not going to go peacefully and quietly. Of course not, because they value their pensions and all their benefits they get in their way of life. They're not going to want to compromise that easily. So, of course, they're going to fight against it. That's normal. And they're going to push harder and harder and attempt to get us to quietly go along with everything. And it's up to us to stand our ground. If you're in the medical field, I can understand the requirement, but not everywhere. Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see, obviously, not wanting to perpetrate it onto others, but I think that there should be, and there may very well may be, a much more quick testing system to identify someone a carrier or not. And if they are, well, then no, they should be around patients. But at the same time, I think everyone is still a sovereign being. It doesn't matter what field you chose to go into. You are still a sovereign being in charge of your own self and capable of free will choices, and nobody has the right to take that away from anybody. They want to take Social Security away. Yeah, that's been a threat for a long time now, though, Sandy, and that the Social Security is going to disappear and all of that. That's been talked about for most of my life of being a thing. Okay, Deb, have a wonderful night. It was good to see you briefly. No idea where that went. So, at any rate, a lot of it is still fear-based information being put out there to keep people in a fear state, because if they're in a fear state, a lot of people, they want someone to come in and make decisions for them so that they don't have to be worried, be told what to do, be led the right way. And those people usually are the older generation who've been taught to trust the government implicitly. They'd never do anything against us. Well, more people are saying, yeah, sure, okay, and standing up for it. So I'm happy to see it. And I will still, as long as I'm allowed to, keep giving my same messages and, So anyway, topics or schedule coming up. So this week we have book group Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time. We did kind of start to began the Edgar Casey book, but it was really just talking about his life, like his life history, his biographical information. And it does recommend reading part of the appendices first before getting into his prophecies to better understand them. So we stopped before that, so that this week we'll backtrack in order to do that. But we didn't go any further in it. It still was dealing with the biographical information. So no one has missed much of anything, those who left early this past week. Let's see, everyone said, yes, they do treat us like children. To believe it, but it's a liability that hospitals won't take. No, I agree, it is, but it's still an individual's right to say what happens to their bodies, So I guess it's a matter of how you look at it. Correct. And, how many people, correct in that, and how many people have trusted the same government? And we've talked about many of those situations that have where the government has done testing of different chemicals and diseases and so forth on the population without their knowledge, and everybody died as a result, or they certainly didn't have any permission. And the testing is still going on. It's just, it's done quieter, or moved to another country where there aren't as stringent laws on human testing. So it's done on prison populations, etc. And it's not like they're just testing for like a one virus or something. They're dumping a whole boatload of stuff into these people. And even if they're criminals or whatever, they're still humans, and it's, not right. So for that reason alone, I say, the government has demonstrated they're not worthy of that level of trust that some people bestow upon them. Agent Orange is another one, correct. So, I think that, again, it's a personal choice whether you get it or not. But I don't think that a medical treatment should be forced on people, or that medical technology that could benefit everybody to take away cancer from society, or AIDS, HIV, multiple sclerosis, any type of horrible disease and illness. That technology exists now, and they keep it out of the people's hands because of that. It's a whole money system, big pharma, etc. It's all tied together, and all that stuff is supposed to be deconstructed and rebuilt for the better. So I look forward to seeing that play out. My body, my choice. Exactly. I got the jab in my brain back. I'm pro-vaccine and anti-force. Right. But that is still your choice to make, Karen. And it's not something I don't think you'd want to have had forced upon you, and had no choice in it, that, it had to be forced on you. That is what I more have an issue with. So anyway, next up, we got book group Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, to start delving further into the Edgar Casey book. And then Friday will be the next Willows Bend After Dark, all at 8 p.m. And I have a feeling they're going to make me get the shot if I want surgery. Possibly. Let's hope not. That's why I'm anti-force. Someone should make their own decision. Exactly. That's all I'm saying. As we are sovereign beings, everyone should realize that they are a sovereign being unto themselves, and they should have that choice, and that no government should dictate that stuff for you. Exactly, Nancy. Exactly. So anyways, so topics for next week for Willows Bend at episode 162. So I did add a few because they were interesting sounding, and I thought we should explore them, or could. So as Lori already said, she voted for the Bizarro Cases of Mass Hysteria one. That's on the table still. Deathbed Visitation is also an option. The Welsh Triangle, which I'd never heard of before, but it's like the Bermuda Triangle and the Alaskan Triangle. Same idea, except it's Welsh. But also kind of, well, let me get through all of them first, Renee. You didn't hear the new topics yet. I must say COVID is no, it's definitely no joke. Absolutely not. And it's, but at the same time, still should be someone's choice. So the Welsh Triangle, but also piggybacking that, another choice could be, what are all of the different triangles of the world? Where do they exist, and what happens there? Not just specifying it down to one. So we could do the Welsh or that one. And another thing I found or heard of tonight called Psychotronics, which is an ability to influence things such as like having influence or controlling the weather, controlling natural disasters and causing them, things of that sort. I don't know all of the information about it because I haven't researched it, and I just heard the term tonight, but it is a valid thing. So thought it was interesting. So Bizarro Cases of Mass Hysteria, Deathbed Visitation, the Welsh Triangle, or all the different triangles of the world, or psychotronic stuff. So Marianne says Deathbed Visitation. Sandy says all of the triangles. And I have the Mass Hysteria for Lori, Deathbed Visitations for Karen. All the triangles, Sandy too. Well, she's Sandy one, but you guys know what I mean. Psychotronics says Tanya. Psychotronics says Brenda. And Mary says Deathbed Visitation. Gotcha. Got 13 people tonight. Okay. And that says Deathbed. Psychotronics says Christina. And Nancy. So far, that's tied with Deathbed Visitation. Let me count. Oh my God, we got 8, 9, 10, 11. Stacy hasn't voted yet. I know that. Who else started out watching? Mindy never fully came in, and she said she was watching, but she didn't fully come in and say hi to anybody. So don't know that she's still here. We'll have what, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we're still missing votes from a couple different people. Sandy says Deathbed Visit. Okay. My emotions affect the weather around me. I want to know more. Seth, in the Seth Speaks material, he talks about that, Christina, and that, yes, we do control that. Infographics has a Deathbed episode now. Oh, I didn't know that. Stacy and Katie. Okay, so Stacy, if you're still listening, what's your votes, dear sister? Stacy. Renee says the Mass Hysteria. Gotcha. Stacy, where are you? Shoy says that she's listening, but she multitasks. So she'll have something playing on her phone and like her son's phone. I don't know how she can keep it all separated and pay attention, or sometimes she gets busy with her daughter at times too. So I don't know where she is. Katie, do you have a vote or don't care? the name again about the weather and the emotion. It had to do with the psychotronic, Christina. But in the Seth Speaks material, he does say, invalidates that, yes, humans' emotions in any one area of the world, that we impact that. Topics are, Katie, bizarre cases of mass hysteria, deathbed visitation, the Welsh Triangle, which is like the Bermuda Triangle, or what are all the different triangles of the world, or psychotronic. It is kind of like the, well, I guess it's like the ability by science and government to control weather patterns, natural disasters, that sort of thing, of like weaponizing the weather and things. I hear you around the house listening to you. Thank you. I appreciate that, Renee. Some people put me on like their TV through, I don't know how you do it, but it's a way of connecting devices. No, it absolutely, in the Seth Speaks material, he validates that, yes, people's emotions do very much affect the weather. Okay, Stace, what's your vote, sweets? Bizarro cases of mass hysteria, deathbed visitation, the Welsh Triangle, which is like the Bermuda Triangle. What are all the different triangles of the world? Already on it, Stace, I heard you. Or psychotronics. When we were kids, we had rain dances and it would rain. Yes, because it's like focused emotions and intentions of everybody in a given area can influence that. But there has been talk of the higher elite forces weaponizing weather, natural disasters, and things. So those are the choices, Stace. Psychotronics, bizarro cases of mass hysteria, deathbed visitation, the Welsh Triangle, or what are all the different triangles of the world? HARP, what is that, Karen? Or what does it stand for? It's an acronym. Did you catch them, Stacy? Welcome back, Ted. You haven't voted either, but I don't know if you saw the show or not. Yep, Psychotronics. Oh, HARP controls the weather. Gotcha. I'll stop causing the dust storms around me with your mood. Yeah, no, it like I said, even in the Seth Speaks material, he talks about that. Triangles or deathbed visitations. Okay. Well, so it looks like deathbed visitations win by 2, with the Psychotronics being second up. So it'll get covered probably next week. High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. I figured it was an acronym, but I wasn't sure of what. So yeah, it does exist, but there's more to that psychotronic thing than just that, but that's part of it. I get to love the show because I had group. That's okay. If you're interested, you can watch the replay. Yes. No, he didn't vote because he didn't see most of the show and didn't hear the choices. Did you want to vote, Ted? If so, I can give you the choices yet again, and you can have a say if you want. Welcome back, Lori. Ions are energy, correct. Did you want to vote, Ted, or are you good? That's AARP, Renee. Ted says the triangles. Okay, well, that's still deathbed visitation is going to be the winner for next week. So that'll be next week's topic. You're very welcome, Brenda. You have a nice night also. So book group will be Wednesday. Then Willows Bend After Dark will be on Friday, which I have to look to see. Famous Murders on Halloween is the topic for Friday's show on Willows Bend After Dark. And then I probably will go live for readings Saturday again. We'll see as it gets a little bit closer, if that stays open or not. And then back in here Monday night for regular Willows Bend. So there you have it, the Black Pyramid in Alaska, my lovelies. So thank you guys for coming, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of the night. And I'll see those of you who are interested in book group on Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Anybody who's new, who's watching, who might be interested in book group, you'll see it in your notifications, should turn up if you check your notifications. But there is a button in group, underneath the group photo, called Rooms. And if you go in there, just click Join Group, and it'll let you in to the, because it's like via video chat for the book group. So that's an easy peasy way in to get into it. So anyways, I will see everybody Wednesday night then, and around Facebook in between. So love to all. Thank you guys for coming. Love you guys.